Hello and welcome back to my channel, Chess Captures Threats. In today's episode, in episode 45 of the Chess Guide, we'll be going over waiting moves. So, we have 3 examples today, so not the usual 4 because that was for our strong versus weak in that section. Now, this time it's going to be a little bit harder to show you, but hopefully we'll be able to get along with this, and it's what waiting moves are. So the first example we've done kind of before, with how you have a rook and a king, so how we can use a waiting move there and what that does. And then these last 2 examples is how we can win the game using a waiting move from winning pawns using a term called Zugzwang, which we'll go over in future episodes. So these are the 2 here. Okay, so what is a waiting move? A waiting move can be done with any piece, and it's kind of to see what they're going to do next almost. So you're going to play a move just to see that they're going to be forced to move there. So, obviously, if you make a move, they have to make a move. So if you make a move that doesn't do anything entirely, they're going to have to make a move that might do something, and then therefore you can plan an attack on that. So here, if we go over, remembering how we do the king and rook checkmate here, we're going to be using it. So obviously our first move out of everything is to get our rook, cut off the line here, and straight away you're going to see this. Now, obviously, we're going to be attacked, so we have to go all the way back. Now, in this scenario, we've got the opposites here, so that's fine. So we can do a check. Now, if we was to attack like this, and we see how we have this chase, and we go all the way over here, as you see, we're going to be chasing it again. So instead, what we do is we do something called a waiting move, where we're going to play a move like this. It doesn't do anything different. It's just 1 extra square it's moved. Now, why is this helpful? Well, now it's black's turn to move. So he's either going to move into the opposition, or he's going to start running away again, which means that we are that 1 move, so that it's going to forcefully give us that opposition. And then again, we can do the check. So here, we can show the same thing again, like this. Normally there'd be better ways to do this chase. You'd obviously put the rook there, but we're just showing you just for in case this does happen. This waiting move forces obviously the king to move. If they do go back again, you've got this, and soon we're going to have this sort of thing. We're going to keep going on and on. So actually here we can do 2 waiting moves almost, because if you do it wrong, you can just move the rook again. It's not the end of the world, you see. And then obviously here we can give checkmate. So that is how to win with a king and a rook using waiting moves. Nothing too different there. Now we're on to the second example. So what is this? Now, same amount of pawns for each side. Now there's a few things we've got to depict from this position here. The main thing is that both pieces on each side can't really move anything. So these are locked in, these pawns are now locked in, and these are, they're all jammed together. The only things that can move are these 2 and the kings. Now, this is where, being white's go, we would actually, even if this was actually black's go in this scenario, white would win. Now, the reason is because there's really only 1-ish move. If you go back here with the king, you're still technically winning, but it's not the right way at all. You should be keeping the king here, putting pressure on this pawn, because we have to turn our attention not to any of these 4, but to this pawn. Now, why is this pawn on a2 so good for us? Now, it's the only pawn that can move, and if we look at what black can do, what can black move? Only this pawn and this king. Now, let's just say that only this king could move. Now, where could the king move to? So, the king could go to either e6 or g6, protecting his pawn. If it goes to e6, we can play this move to g5. And if it goes to g6, we can play the move e5, winning 1 of these 2 pawns. So just to show here, being white's go, we're going to play a4. Now the reason we're doing this is it's going to block off that pawn, so now the pawn can't move. And now, whatever black does can only move the king. So whatever black does here, if it obviously moves back, we win this pawn. So it can't go to any of these 3. If it goes to e6 here, we have going to g5, and by then we're going to be able to take either this pawn or this pawn. And the same thing goes here, where if it goes this way, we're going to again win this pawn, or even one of these two next as well. So again, this is what we can call the term Zugzwang. So it's a very, very difficult term. You know, there is many different ways that it's going to happen. It can be used with any piece, again, really, and it's going to happen in certain scenarios that are very tricky. So pawns like this, you know, you won't see it in a completely open game because there's any piece can move then. Whereas if it's in locked positions here, you most of the time will see that. So if we play this a3 move here, we're kind of allowing them to still have that move there. Now, luckily in this position, it's fine because whatever, that still technically classifies a waiting move. For white, it's just a bit annoying as if they play a4, we are now the ones that have to move our king away. Now, in this fact, we can actually just go this way, but there might be turns that if this happens, we have to move our king and we're going to lose our pawns. So you've got to make sure we don't do the wrong moves firstly, and we understand that what Zugzwang might be. We'll go over that what that means a lot later, but at the minute we're just looking at waiting moves and how they might be able to win us something. So the same goes for here. Now this time, again, the king can move. It's the exact same sort of position here. White is up a pawn though, and here the king can move. Now it's a little bit different. We're not exactly winning a pawn here, but we don't play this move, we're going to lose. Simple as that. If they capture, we're just lost a pawn and they're going to promote. Now, instead, we're going to play the move d3. Now, the reason for this, can't push, we capture. So, they have to move the king again. So, they move the king to h6, the only move on the board. Now, we can do a few things. We can move our king to, I think the best thing here is to f4 here. Now, the reason for this is we're pretending to lower the king here, but realistically, we can go for this pawn over here. You know, and win the c5 pawn. But you can also do something else as well here, where we can even go up to here and start playing moves like this, where if any of this happens, we are forcing it into a worse position here. And again, just got to be careful for anything like this. You know, luckily in a scenario like this, you can just go for the pawn here, but that's not really what we're looking at. So here, we're just going over that you can easily, just by, you know, making one move like that, you've caused black to have to move their king at least 3 squares forcefully almost. And by then, you're going to win one of these pawns here. You know, they can't move any pawns now, so you just have to keep moving their king. And by then, we've won this pawn, and this pawn is very easily going to promote. At least that one, or even this one here. So, that is the 3 examples. That is how we can use waiting moves. We'll just go over these again, and then that will be it. So obviously with the king and rook here, we've just got moves like this, where after we have this, then here, if we ever have a time like this where you have this whole king chase a bit far away, as you see here, we're actually so far away that we're even able to carry on here with this. So as we see here, again, you've got this check, and then here you have this whole chase again, as you see. But when they get this rook here, you're forced to move. Now you have this distance, and this is where, for a move like this, you play their waiting move, and then they're going to forcefully do this. If they want to do it longer, it's the same exact thing. So there's this. Hopefully you understand what a waiting move is in that scenario. And again, in scenarios like this, you could push a4 here, and you know, we're blocking all the pawns in, and we're easily able to win a pawn of any choice here. You know, quite easily. We'll easily win one of these two as well next. If they go to here, we play this, vice versa. And last but not least, here, when we're able to play this d3 move, we're obviously forcing only the king to move, as this can't move. So when this king moves, we're able to go and win this pawn forcefully, because the king has had to sacrifice their square here, so it cannot go on to f4. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed and understand what waiting moves are. So thank you and bye bye.